games here, James, that we're going to be breaking down. We talk a lot about the MLB season to this point, going through pitching rotations, matchups, and whatnot. Well, 8 games here today. Plenty of top starting pitching to go through. Some easy matchups to target. Should be a good day.
Yeah, it should be a better day there, John.
Ooh, better day.
First day on Better Sports Network. Love it. Honestly, Bart Scott can't wait. I know this isn't a football podcast, but that's always been my favorite, my favorite quote for anything fun, anything interesting, and excited to be a part of the Better Sports Network moving forward with this platform with our podcast, with our live stream.
Yep.
And
we're doing podcasts in the morning here, and then 5 to 6 o'clock, James and I are back breaking down everything that's gone on, all the news, all the weather, all the lineups that you guys need to go, answering your start-sit questions, your lineup questions, maybe some betting questions for you all there. We'll be live here on the Better Sports Network Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 o'clock Eastern time, getting you all ready for this MLB DFS slate. It should be a great time here with Fantasy Alarm being a big part of the Better Sports Network, James.
Yeah, leading right up to the Fantasy Alarm show over on SiriusXM to start right after us. So perfect segue into the show. And we're ecstatic. John and I have worked together for a long time. For those that don't know us, here at Fantasy Alarm, we've done podcasts of all different sports: baseball, basketball, football, all year long. Generally it's Howard and John on the football podcast, but John and I do 82 games of NBA and then 160 games of baseball. So we're familiar with one another pretty much, and we're looking forward to it. John, 8 games though to kick us off in the better. This is our bread and butter. Yeah. We're more of the 6 to 8, 6 to 9 game ilk, I would say, John. Right. That's kind of right in the sweet spot for us.
We like the player pools when it comes to these 6 to 8 game slates for sure.
Yep.
James, break down some of the matchups for us. What do we got for run totals? Matchups that we should be looking to target here when you're looking from Vegas.
Yeah, so in terms of Vegas, and that's how we'll usually open our pod, just taking a look at things over there. Flyer playing across the country. Both John and I are on the East Coast as of right now. The biggest betting favorites are the Angels -204. They get to face Patrick Corbin at home. That should be a fun matchup for the Angels.
Anytime we get Patrick Corbin on a slate, we are just licking our chops here.
Yeah, first day on Better Sports, and happy Patrick Corbin Day already to everyone that celebrates. Bryce Elder and the Atlanta Braves -189 favorites, hosting the Cincinnati Reds. And those are really the only two big favorites of the day. Andrew Heaney and the Rangers take on Zach Greinke and the Royals. Heaney is a -145 favorite at home. Same thing with Max Scherzer going up against Yu Darvish and the Mets versus Padres. That kicks off the slate at 7:10. And that's really it in terms of run totals, John. Let's take a look at the.
We got Coors on the slate again, and we have actually a good offense in Coors with St. Louis. So, as we were kind of a little disappointed at times when the Nationals were there over the weekend, expecting a lot more production out of the St. Louis team this week.
Yeah, and to your point, 11 over under there in St. Louis, Colorado. That is the highest on the board, which, for all those playing MLB DFS for the first time, get used to it. When you have a Coors slate, that's just what happens. The runs are plenty typically. I know the opening night of Coors was a 1-0 game, of course, but usually it is a higher implied total, usually a lot of runs scored. So 11 there. In the Angels Washington game, 9.5. It is opened at. It's pretty much stayed there as of this recording. 9-run implied total in Braves Reds. 8.5 in Texas Kansas City. And 8.5 in Milwaukee and Arizona as well. Those are the only other games over 8 implied runs. And then we have some that are not out, some that are pitcher friendly, like the late night hammer in Los Angeles, San Francisco.
Right. And as of least now, no real weather concerns. But of course, stay tuned throughout the day. We'll have the playbook out for everybody here. Got to go ahead and check out the Fantasy Alarm playbook. Break down all the weather details that are needed that could impact this slate as well. James, let's waste no more time. Let's get into it, breaking down the pitcher position. Here we go. Position by position for everybody who is new to the show. Top price guy on your slate is Max Scherzer here. He's at home. He's got the San Diego Padres at $10,400. Luis Castillo on the road against Chicago Cubs at 96, and Julio Urias on the road against San Francisco at $9,400. We'll call that our top three pitching on the slate.
Yeah. So Scherzer's obviously in play. He has not looked great to start the year, and the home runs have obviously been concerning. 4 home runs in 2 starts, but that's not something we're really worried about with Max Scherzer. He gets to pitch at home for the first time this year. We know Citi Field has become predominantly pitcher friendly, so I have no problem getting to Scherzer. I like Luis Castillo as long as we don't have any weather concerns. He's looked great to start the year. No earned runs, just 3 hits, 5 base runners, John, in 2 games and 11 2/3. The pitch count went from 76 to 99 in his second start of the year. Have to love that. I think Luis Castillo, again, barring no wind, but as of right now, I see not many places have opened with a line for this game, and I wonder if they are waiting to get a weather report. But the FanDuel Sportsbook has opened up with 8, and that typically implies that there's not going to be wind blowing out. And you'll be hearing that a lot when we have Wrigley slates. Like,
Right.
if the wind is blowing out, Wrigley becomes Coors Jr. in a sense, because the ball just carries and leaves the ballpark, even on lazy fly balls. So as of right now, it looks like the wind should be intact. I like Luis Castillo. Julio Urias is very interesting because the Giants' offense has been surprisingly good to start the year. And, they are striking out a lot, 28% K rate, 27.9 to be exact, third highest in baseball. But they have an 828 team OPS, which is also the third highest in baseball. So, we are, it's a good offense right now, which it probably didn't expect coming into the year, especially with
very limited sample size here, James. Obviously, just 37 plate appearances. Do you know what their strikeout rate is against left-handed pitching this year? Guess?
I mean, I'm gonna assume it's high. I'm gonna assume it's high at 35.
It is a ridiculous 43.2%.
Oh, okay. So that's I mean,
now again, we're early season MLB, right? So they've
Right.
had 37 total plate appearances,
which means really nothing. Like, that's
it really doesn't mean anything. But they've struck out at almost half. Of those
that is it's crazy.
Julio Urias, the one thing that I do like is the 87 pitches, right? The one thing that we're worried about sometimes with these Dodger starters is they get handled with kid gloves. Urias is certainly one of those starters that gets it's like 6 innings and he's out. And so far, it's been 6 innings and he's been out of this game. So great if you're in a quality start league. The numbers certainly have bared out that he's not allowing many runs, not allowing many hits. Over 20 fantasy points on DraftKings in both starts here. Great pitching environment being in San Francisco, as you mentioned here. Strikeouts certainly could be there, but if he is once again just kind of pigeonholed into 6 innings and out, regardless of pitch count, that is at least a little capping when it comes to your fantasy upside.
Yeah, and that's probably why, if I'm picking between the top tier, Luis Castillo is probably my top arm of the 3, and I would put him slightly over Urias. But it is worth mentioning, there could be 95 to 100 pitches here if we consider the increase that he saw from game 1 to game 2.
Yeah.
And the strikeout rate's crazy. So I like Urias. I think as of now, I like Castillo a little better.
Is there anybody in this mid tier that you like? We're talking after the top 3 guys. We're not going to play pitch Marquez at home. Darvish gets the Mets here at $8,400. Obviously, Andrew Heaney coming off of an awful start in his debut. He's home against Kansas City. Pretty decent matchup for him. Deuce Smiley gets Seattle. Wade Miley pitched a gem in his debut. He's on the road against Arizona. You got Mats in Colorado, not really where we're probably looking to go. And then Zach Gallen, as great as he was last year, has not been good at all this year. Great price tag, though, in Zach Gallen, if you're just kind of maybe paying for some upside at $7,100. Is there a spot in this mid-range where you're like, yep, this is my guy? On an 8-game slate here, double spending up on pitching, obviously, especially when a Coors Field is on the slate, it's kind of tough to fit everything in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that stands out is Darvish's price tag. But obviously the matchup going up against Scherzer is not the best. But you know, the Mets have the 25th ranked offense in terms of OPS against right-handed pitching. That's a 200 at bat sample, so a pretty decent sample. Obviously, there's so much more to like even out. I know the Mets offense is going to be better than that, but 649 OPS, and sometimes we worry about the power with Darvish. I mean, the Mets 23rd in ISO against right-handed pitching as well. So I like the price for Darvish. I don't hate going back to the well with Andrew Heaney. We know the blow up is always a potential, but what we're talking about earlier in the year, Baltimore's offense has been just amazing. 2 home runs doesn't surprise me, especially Heaney's a guy who, has the ball lifted a lot. But he does have
31% strikeout rate for the Royals against lefties this year.
Yeah, and that was my next point, John. Like Andrew Heaney's a guy who has solid strikeout upside. Yes, he might give up 2 home runs. He also might have 10 strikeouts in the same outing. So I like Andrew Heaney for tournaments. 7,900 is a pretty good price tag. He's favored minus 145. Some places, DraftKings Sportsbook minus 165. I see him FanDuel Sportsbook 166. So there's a bunch of places where Heaney's like a pretty sizable favorite. So probably Andrew Heaney for me in this tier. Don't love Smiley.
Yeah, I'm not getting the Smiley. I said, and we count out Wade Miley a lot, and then he has these random runs of just being a really good pitcher. 6 innings and 79 pitches there against the Mets.
He doesn't miss bats.
Arizona.
He doesn't miss bats, right? That that's where I think we can play someone like Andrew Heaney for a couple $100 more who has double-digit strikeout upside, or Logan Webb, who has already struck out 12 guys in a game, right?
Would you go Logan Webb against the Dodgers?
No. But I'm just saying, giving an example of Miley, kind of why we don't go to him, right? At 77, why we would look elsewhere. Honestly, Zach Gallen, or 7,100 is probably someone I would go to before going to.
This is where I think the advantage of Zach Gallen comes in. Look at the 2 games he's pitched so far. On the road against the Dodgers, on the road against the Padres.
Yeah, it's tough.
2 of the toughest matchups you'll find in baseball.
It's tough.
And now he's home against Milwaukee. You and I play a lot of Milwaukee, when it comes to lineup stacks, because they're just so cheap. And we do think that in the right situations, they have some pop and can do some damage here. They have some good lefty bats in that lineup as well. Yelich, Winker, Tellez, guys that have some power. I think Zach Gallen's a stud. Yep. And this is an opportunity now, just a big step down in just competition that he's going to be going up against. If you look at this Brewers lineup here, Zach Gallen is not going to be $7,100 for too long, in my opinion, just based off the talent that we know. You want to talk about strikeout upside? He certainly has strikeout upside. So for me, I think Zach Gallen at $7,100 is going to find his way into a lot of lineups for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to ignore. Because I agree, he is very talented. I mean, Milwaukee 23.3% K rate this year isn't the best. I mean, it's not terrible, but middle of the pack, 14th in the league. So, there is upside for Gallen. 7.59 ERA, expected ERA is 3.97. John, he's a 44% career ground ball pitcher, 28% ground ball rate through 2 starts. His walks are up, the home runs are up. Everything kind of suggests that he's going to, there's just improvement on the horizon. Yeah. I mean, 20% hard hit rate, and he's getting shelled, right? I mean, 20%, that's 10% lower than it was last year.
Well, again, you said, his expected ERA is almost 4 runs lower than his actual.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, Zach Gallen, the positive regression is on the way. Likely this start. If it's not, I mean, if his price gets any lower than 7,100, we're going to talk a lot about Zach Gallen this year. Right.
Yeah, because we're going to keep going to the well. So for me, I think Gallen's going to find his way into a lot of lineups, a lot of pairings with Castillo or Urias. For me, with Gallen in lineups, because it's going to help you probably spend up and get some of those Coors Field bats. If we're looking all the way down, though, Suarez at $6,900 against Washington. That's kind of appealing here. Again, I know that he got lit up by Seattle in his first start, but Jose Suarez last year was another guy that was fairly serviceable for a lot of our lineups. Has some strikeout potential. Washington certainly doesn't scare us. Now they have some guys that can hit left-handed pitching. We talk a lot about that. Lane Thomas. We saw Stone Garrett have a big day the other day. They got Jeimer in their lineup there. So I mean, but those aren't like Aaron Judge,
No,
right? So,
no.
Any interest in Jose Suarez at 69?
Yeah, I think there is appeal. Like he's the biggest favorite on the board. And Washington, when you look at they're in the top half of the league in a lot of offensive categories against lefties. They actually have the most at bats against lefties. They also played in Coors too. Like they faced off against Austin Gomber in Coors. So like,
yeah, I think they faced two lefties. I think in Coors.
Yeah, Gomber and I think they got shut down by
they got
Freeland.
shut down by Freeland. That's true.
So it is somewhat interesting. I do have interest in Suarez, biggest favorite on the board, as I mentioned, and Washington offense again, top half of the league against lefties, but like we don't expect that to continue. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they are just good against lefties this year.
One of those just pesky teams that don't strike out.
Yeah.
Like the Royals last year. Royals were not a good offense, but they also never struck out.
Never struck out.
Couldn't really target them for anything.
Where I think a lot of people might go and maybe a pivot off Suarez is probably Bryce Elder, who coming off a great start, 79 pitches, 6 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts. His price decreased $300, and it's not like they're going into Cincinnati. Like he's not that Atlanta's the best pitching environment, but it's not a bad pitching environment by any means. So I think Elder is probably the more popular of the two. They're the two biggest favorites on the board, Suarez and Elder. It's funny because they're 69 and 6,600 respectively, but I think both of those guys are quite interesting. I would, without like having ownership out to us now, I would guess Elder's the higher owned of the two, but maybe that's a reason why we pivot to Suarez in our.
Yeah, I mean, certainly people tend to go to Atlanta because they have that, that great offense that's around them. But, Trout, is certainly capable of carrying an offense by himself here. So some pretty good value on this slate, which is, again, what we're talking about. We didn't necessarily love the mid-tier. We liked an Andrew Heaney dart throw maybe in tournaments, but, you go Gallen, Suarez, or Elder in the value tier. It's going to certainly help pay up for some of that elite pitching like we discussed. Are you in on Scherzer? I know we talked just to recycle back up. Like it's Max Scherzer, but it is the San Diego Padres. Like, does that, is that a reason enough to keep you off? Is he a tournament play only for you? Because, given the other two top guys at Castillo and Urias.
I mean, it's not going to get worse than it has for Scherzer. So, like, I think it's only going to go up from here. San Diego's offense, they've been pretty good against righties to start the year. 213 ISO, 802 OPS, 348 WOBA. That's all top 10 in the league. So, like, it's a good offense against righties. We know Manny Machado has notoriously been reverse splits. Soto, obviously.
Yeah, I think I just think he's going to be. He'll probably be rather contrarian. I don't think people are going to want to go against the Padres offense here.
We say that baseball is just so weird, right? Because like a few podcasts ago, we were talking about it with Woodruff, and we were like, should we go? Like Woodruff is in a tough spot. He gets the Cardinals, and there was I forget who else was on the mound. There was 2 guys, Kershaw, right?
Woodruff was 64%.
And someone else. And Woodruff was 64% in a tough spot. And
Kershaw
was
not good against Atlanta. Against Arizona that day, he was terrible.
And Kershaw was not. But like that's why like I'm not sure where to gauge Scherzer's ownership, just because people just gravitate to elite pitchers no matter what, because they could just shut down good lineups. I would say I think Castillo and Urias checking a higher ownership, but that's just speculation. It could end up just being like. Scherzer 40% owned just because it's Max Scherzer.
Right. Let's go on over to catch a spot. We got 8 games here. For those, again, catcher for us is generally not a position we like to spend up for unless there's, just so much value that we can go ahead and get a WD Smith, in our lineup. We talked about the home run issues with Heaney there. Salvi Perez is 5K. Tyler Stevenson, a guy that's generally great in the mid tier, has a price bump here against Elder, who we may be looking at for some value here. So where are you kind of starting your matchups here for catcher? Cal Raleigh, we know the power side for him against Southpaws, 3,900. Where are we? Where are you starting your catcher position at?
So I like Salvi's home run upside against Andrew Heaney. Like I mentioned, I like Andrew Heaney, but we know he
Yeah,
serves up home runs. Like he's not someone who is afraid to throw strikes. And that has led to a ton of home runs allowed throughout his career. Last year, 1.73 home runs per nine. The year before, 2.01 home runs per nine. Like this is not a guy
right.
afraid to throw strikes, and he pays for it at times. So I do think Salvi is, if you aren't going Heaney, someone that we could play.
I had the
For a
Raleigh
cheap home
split flip,
run.
by the way. He's actually the homer comes against righties when he's a lefty. Yeah.
Homers come against righties. Yep. Homers comes against righties. If I'm like looking, I mean, Wilson Contreras going into cores, I think would probably be the first spot. Like
Sure.
I really take a look at like cash games. I think 4,300 is not a bad price, especially if we're using a Bryce Elder or a
Right.
Jose Suarez. I think getting to Wilson Contreras is not going to be a
Sean
problem at
Murphy
all.
has to be the everyday catcher now because
Oh,
Darno is injured. So
yeah. So Sean Murphy will. I will say Graham Ashcraft looked
yeah.
amazing in his first start. Will that continue?
Right.
It's Graham Ashcraft. I don't know. I think Logan O'Hoppe is going to be pretty interesting because he continues to home run.
Yeah.
He continues homer, dude. He hit his third home run in 5 games on Sunday. In a just absolute barn burner of a game, 23 runs scored. He's going to strike out a lot, and he's kind of showing
Probably
that.
not against Patrick Corbin.
But yeah, I mean, don't jinx it. I won't knock on
Sure.
wood because I don't want my dogs to bark. But if you want to go ahead and knock on wood, I wouldn't be mad at the avoidance of a jinx. John.
I got it.
Thank you. So I appreciate it. And to Logan, I mean, we all listened to the John Rahm thing. We all know Zach Ertz,
Yep.
jinx John Rahm in the.
So would you go Logan O'Hoppe over Elias Diaz in that spot against Matt? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think O'Hoppe. He's probably my favorite guy we've talked about yet, excluding Wilson Contreras, who I think is just going to be naturally popular because he's good.
Great lineup for the Cardinals. Going to fit a lot of stacks there. Gabriel Moreno hasn't had the start to the year that we had hoped for, but he does get the lefty matchup against Wade Miley here, and still just $2,500. So basically your punt catcher spot here.
Yeah, he's just struggled. And he profiles as a very good bat, right? That's what he's been profiling since his minor league days. That's why he's so coveted as a prospect. And I think he's going to come around. But I don't have a problem getting to him. I also don't have a problem if you just kind of want to avoid him and let him work out of his.
So recapping here, our top catcher options for today. We like Salvi against the lefty in Heaney for that home run potential there. We think Wilson Contreras is going to be rather popular just given the Coors Field matchup against German Marquez at $4,300. Sean Murphy should be the everyday catcher for Atlanta, at least for now. Is going to hit somewhere in the middle of that Atlanta matchup. But again, more of the contrarian play when you get Logan O'Hoppe and Elias Diaz just right below him, $3,500 and $3,600 in some pretty strong spots there. Again, we're going to be, when we build our lineup at the end of this show here, we're going to probably be seeing a lot of Angels just stacking up against Patrick Corbin here anyway. So it could certainly see Logan O'Hoppe down there at catcher. And then I still think Gabriel Moreno could be a punt play if you just needed the total salary saver at $2,500.
John, what do you think? What do you think of? Would you give Francisco Alvarez a look 2K?
If he's in the lineup, they've seemingly had a hard time putting him in.
Yeah, played Sunday, 1 for 4 RBI.
Yeah, listen, if he's in the lineup, I don't mind. The guy's one of the best catching prospects in all of baseball. He's got a great bat. It's Yu Darvish, so not like the best matchup for him, but also, again, if you're looking, if you need even the $500 for Moreno, that's fine. I have no problem going Alvarez. We talk a lot of times. Baseball, unlike other sports, is very unique. Maybe only hockey can really rival it, where a top player can get you nothing, right? Mike Trout can go over 4, 0 points.
Yeah.
LeBron James isn't ever giving you nothing, right? In hockey,
Right.
Sidney Crosby can get one shot, right? And that kind of is a down day. So if you wanted to go in just $2,000 Alvarez and he gets you a 0, that doesn't mean your lineup's dead, right? Like if you use that money to kind of build around. So MLB DFS is really a beast. When the best hitters are 1 for 3, when they fail 66% of the time, and they're considered elite, that kind of speaks to the sport, and which is why MLB DFS honestly is one of the tougher kind of to get right. But that's why we like to break down and target those matchups. Like Patrick Corbin, which has been so nice to us to begin the year. Basically playing T-ball when you're going up against Patrick Corbin. All right, let's go to first base. They give us Ohtani with that first base outfield.
Speaking of Patrick Corbin
eligibility here. He is $6,200, but Goldschmidt is 59 in cores against Marquez. Freeman obviously gets Webb at 58, but probably more so cash games or a contrarian play for most. CJ Cron, we'll see if he's in the lineup or not. He missed the other day due to an illness. He gets the lefty matchup, though we talk a lot. Last year, he was actually better against righties than lefties, but historically, a lefty matcher. He gets Matz at 57. Olsen gets Ashcraft. I know you just mentioned Ashcraft looked pretty good in his first start there. Ty France against the lefty and Drew Smyly at 52 is a pretty strong matchup. So where do you find yourself, kind of keying in on when it comes to first base?
Yeah, so I mean, if we want to include Ohtani here, we could obviously get to Ohtani. I don't care about the lefty-righty splits. He's elite no matter who he's facing. He hits lefties.
As we talk about it, Washington
righties,
bullpen, terrible. And when Corbin eventually gets pulled, Ohtani versus the bullpen works as well.
Yeah, 340 WOBA against left-handed bats. Corbin, 388 WOBA against righties, 367 against lefties last year. Like there is no letting up no matter who's at the plate. So you can obviously get there. Goldschmidt's going to be the chalk. And this is why I think we're both onto something. It's Suarez or Elder mostly in SP2 because unlike last Coors series, Cardinals are not cheap. I mean,
actually,
getting Goldschmidt and Arenado.
Jordan Walker's been under 3K like every study. What do you want to give me a guess on what you think Jordan Walker's price is going to be? Okay.
I already looked.
4K. It's 3K. 3K. Jordan Walker. Oh God.
No,
I'm just gonna plug that in now. I'm just gonna hit the button. All right. Thanks for the free square, I guess. Okay.
But if we wanted to spend up Goldschmidt or Arenado, like if that's where you wanted to start, Goldschmidt's 59, Arenado 52.
No.
So no discount there. So I do think there's going to be a popular
Jordan Walker 70% or higher, you think? Has to be.
Probably, yeah. Probably. Yeah, probably. Yep. I think a lot of the ancillary pieces around Goldschmidt and Aaron. We know how Coors is. Like they're 7 of the top 10 ownership are going to be
2,900.
Burleson's still hitting second. Brendan Donovan, who plays 37 different positions, if he leads off, or Edmund, like whoever is in the lineup is probably there's probably going to be ownership.
Is Burleson a pivot off Goldschmidt, or do you think people just play them both because he has that outfield eligibility?
Yeah, I think that's the key. Like and it's something we talked about last year with Pujols, right? If this was where Burleson didn't have the first base or the outfield eligibility, then it's a talking point. I don't think it's a talking point much because
I'm in a full agreement with you there. I'm gonna just hit Burleson in there just for the sake of throwing him in the lineup. We'll complete the lineup obviously at the end of the stream, but at least for now, got a couple of value plays to plug in there at the outfield spots, which means we have room for one top spend up for outfield. Could be Ohtani. Obviously has that first base outfield eligibility, but we'll hit the rest of that outfielder as we move down. Let's talk about more first baseman, though. If for whatever reason you're multi-lineupping, you're going to be fading some of these spots here. Mentioned Goldschmidt already. Mentioned Ohtani. What's that next tier? Who's that next 1B guy that you're throwing at?
Nathaniel Lowe is a very interesting play here. He's gotten off to like a decent start. He has a little 5-game hitting streak going. We know there was a lot of power last year. It was really his breakout season. I don't know
He's been
what
good
to
so
make
far.
of Zach Greinke. He is the toughest cookie to crack because like the statistics suggest
Right.
that he's just not good and he just continues to pitch well. I mean, 6 strikeouts per like last year he had less than 5 strikeouts per 9 innings. This year it's at
Here's a good
6.35 PPR.
barometer of Zach
Um,
Greinke. He has a 2.338 ERA on the season. He has an expected ERA of 5.27. So the
it's just
opposite of
like
Zach Gallen, as we discussed, is Zach Greinke here.
I know, but like 26% hard hit rate. Then you look at it, 5% soft contact. He has 68% of the time. It's medium
Hitters have
and then 20 like
hitters have a 342 batting average on balls in play, but he's managing an 80% strain rate. So he's just getting lucky is what we're trying to say here.
Nate Lowe, or formerly Nate Lowe, now, he wants to be called Nathaniel now. So respect to
he
him
likes
for
taking up
using
your
his
Twitter characters. Is what
his birth name. Yes. Same Nathaniel, same. I think he is probably the guy here. If you want to fade Bryce Elder, Jason Vossler has been a pleasant surprise. We get a lefty righty matchup here. You know, another guy, first base, outfield eligible, has 3 home runs already, has 6 extra base hits already. A lot of runs batted in, hitting in the middle of the Reds lineup. Really good hitters
second
park.
baseman.
But I also found our second baseman. He also plays first base, and he is going up against Patrick Corbin, none other than the lefty masher of 2022.
And he's heating up. He had a home run today. He's just getting himself warm. He's seeing the baseball well now. Has had just 1 hit today, 1 for 5. He's got like 3 hits on the year, but he did homer today as we approach the lefty matchup for Corbin. So.
Well, let's see. I'm looking up to see how many at bats he has had against lefties. Just 5 at bats, John. That's it. So, like, the reason why he's been so bad is because he only had 5 at bats going against lefties this year.
I'm checking out the BVP.
So
for
last
Mr.
year,
Corbin against Drury. I bet they've at least faced each other a handful of times here. So.
Well, I got the so while you're looking, I got the lefty numbers for Drury last year. 626 slug, 955 OPS, 327 ISO, 403 WOBA. Like everything across the board, elite numbers. And he's 3,600 and he is multi-position eligible. If you can't get to Goldschmidt, you could play Drury at first. And if you can get to Goldschmidt and Angels Cardinals are in your calling,
you and everybody else, but
so
Brandon Drury 3 for 8 against Patrick Corbin here. Hunter Renfroe actually has a really 2 home runs in his career off of Mr. Corbin as well.
That doesn't surprise me because Renfroe's been so good against lefties.
Just again, speaking to where I think a lot of lineups are going to be built here today.
Yep.
Obviously you can go there in that direction. Drury's probably going to slot into our second base spot as we kind of build our way down. Any other value first baseman on your radar here?
I don't think so. Pavin Smith 2K, but he gets lefty. He made his debut on Sunday. 2 for 4, two doubles, 3 RBI. Don't really like the lefty. I also don't think you need to force that into your lineup.
Yeah, we have some good first baseman. We already hit value in the outfield spot here.
And in case you guys didn't notice, for those listening for the first time on Better or watching on Better Sports, we do build the lineup at the end. We're going to do a home run call. We're going to build the lineup, and
when we come across plays that we like, I just lock them in. So it's just kind of the way this is all trending. So let's go to second base. I have a feeling we're going to go with our guy here, Brandon Drury, but we got to give everybody their due diligence. So Mookie Betts is your second base outfield eligible still. He's got Webb. Jonathan India has got Elder. Simeon against Greinke. Albie is against Ashcraft. Estrada isn't really good, but Urias obviously a tough spot for him. Rojas, Miley. Is anybody here clicking for you, or is it just making Brandon Drury that much more appealing?
Man, seeing Josh Rojas start this year, I wish this was 2022 because I had so many
Yeah.
shares of Josh Rojas last year. Um, so I, upon an initial look, I still think Drury is the top dog. We'll obviously make our way down the position at the top. So we've already kind of said Zach Greinke's getting lucky. If you're running a Texas stack out there, which I don't think is crazy, they have a good lineup, and it's Zach Greinke. Marcus Semien had some did not have a monster year, but he had monster games at time. I mean, and it's because he can hit home runs and steal bases, right?
What better
So
pitch to steal a base on
if he
than a
gets in
46-mile-an-hour Ethan, right?
right. I mean, he only has one stolen base and one home run. And again, this is a guy who has massive upside. So I do like
Couple of good
Semien
games here
51. I
against the
know
Cubs the
he
last
has
two
not
nights.
really
3 hits, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs.
right.
So
I think hasn't necessarily really paid it off since Sunday, yes, and then
right.
large gap, and then first 2 games of the year. But if you're Texas is interesting just because the numbers do suggest that Greinke's going to regress, and he's just how long can he really be good, right? So I do like Semien at the top. Nothing else really until Brendan Donovan, another guy we could play multi-position. The problem with Brendan Donovan becomes, do we want to pay 45 for Donovan, or would we rather play 36
I feel like
for
Drury would be obvious.
The savings. Right. But then you're like, oh, well, there's multi-position eligibility.
Yeah, it's Arenado.
But then you go to third and he shares, and then you share with Arenado. So Brendan Donovan just is unfortunately in.
There's not even really a good value. So here's the pivot from Drury is Rengifo, right? Rengifo's another guy that hit lefties
he hit
really well last year. We
well.
love playing Rengifo against lefties. He also is second, third base eligibility. So it's like, if you're not playing Arenado, are you playing Drury, Rengifo, Trout? Is your St. Louis exposure is Walker Burleson, and you're going Ohtani, Rengifo, Drury, Trout, something like that,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the Angels have the better matchup, right? Herman Marquez is not a terrible pitcher.
Well, he is very
just
bad
pitching in the worst possible. He is very bad at home, but he can be good. We do not have more often than not, I would rather trust Herman Marquez at home than Patrick Corbin anywhere.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right? Is that fair? So I even looking at Rengifo's numbers, man, against lefties last year, John, to your point, 909 OPS, 570 slug, 255.
Oh yeah, no, he lit him up. We love Rengifo last year against lefties.
This is going to be a tough spot. I would say how I would assess this breakdown of similar positions is in cash games, I would probably just go with the ownership, right? I think that's.
And do we think that's anything, or do we think that
anyone doesn't know? I think it's gonna be cores at first and third.
Definitely sexier names to play.
I think a lot of people
is Arenado Goldschmidt.
Yeah, and I think and you can, because you can go Elder or you can go Suarez. So I think a lot of those positions, the cornerstone positions, are spend ups at cores. Middle infield is where things get interesting, and I think that's where Rengifo or Drury, or Rengifo and Donovan go with the ownership, whatever that takes you. I wish one of these guys.
That's what it is, right? So we love 2 of these second basemen. I'm lesser in on Donovan than you are, just because of the price.
I don't disagree, but I think if he's let's say he's leading off in cores in front of Goldschmidt, in front of,
is he their leadoff hitter against lefties? Yeah,
of Arenado.
Right. Sorry, so he's their leadoff hitter against righties. Okay.
Yeah, he's probably gonna lead off. He didn't start Saturday.
I knew they had Edmund lead off today, but that was against.
That Edmund lead off because Donovan got off to a hot start, was leading off, and then could turn to Edman. So if Donovan
If
were to
you're
lead
looking
off,
for a shortstop to play.
yes. If Donovan was leading off, I would have more interest. If he's not, then it's obviously the other two guys. I mean, I prefer, just to be clear, I prefer the Angels guys.
Sure.
I'm just talking like large picture. I do think Donovan fits in if he's in the starting lineup because he's in course.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that it's going to be an interesting mix because the fact that those Cardinals, Walker and Burleson, which we haven't even gotten to yet, are so cheap, and we have some value pitching. Like I think you're going to see a lot of combos of Angels in Colorado, or Angels in St. Louis, and you'll see which way they kind of break. Third base, we got Macho Man at $5,600. He's got that matchup though against Scherzer. Riley's at 55 against Ashcraft. Then you got Arenado, we've just talked a lot about. He's $5,200, easy spend up there, going up against Herman Marquez. After that, again, it kind of just dumps down to the group that we were just discussing. Gio Urshela is somebody that hits lefties fairly well. It's not at the same power level as some of the other guys that we mentioned, like Rengifo. But he's a guy at 4,100 that does have some history. Is Rendon back? Yeah, is he still suspended? What's the deal with
He's
this?
back. He's back. He played over the weekend.
So
another Angel that we're gonna have to play.
Right, and I'm just trying to look at their lineup. So they probably have. So their starting lineup has Drury playing first, then, right? With Grifo at second and Rendon at third. Is that how that's breaking down for them?
Yep.
So yeah, Anthony Rendon here, $3,900 rather. RBIs in 3 of the straight games that he's played. Another just great matchup versus lefties for him.
So Rendon or Arenado, right? It's just another those two guys.
I feel like at some point you spend down too much that you have to spend up for an Arenado or Goldschmidt. Or to your point, we keep talking about all this value pitching that we might be going. Maybe it is a double spend up. Maybe you see Urias and Castillo kind of builds here. So it'll
Rendon
be
hit fourth today, John.
Together.
Rendon hit fourth today behind Trout, Ohtani. Renfroe fifth, Drury sixth, Rengifo seventh.
Yeah. So I mean, it also plays the Rengifo, I guess, maybe out of your stacks then, because the way you're building lineups, you kind of want to string guys together. So
yeah, I mean, it depends on where we go, because Ohop is hitting ninth. So like if we wanted like an end or in a wraparound, but yeah, that could hurt for sure.
Yeah, it could definitely hurt his value there. So talk to me again. We know the core guys. If you're going to pivot, anybody here that you find more attractive than the other?
Yeah, Candelario gets a lefty. We know he's been notoriously better against that split. Evan Longoria, believe it or not, continues to be very good.
I did say it the other day. I was like, hey, against the lefty.
He did. And he bit both of us in the ass because he hit Kershaw. He took Kershaw deep. And both you and I were definitely fond of Kershaw that night. Yeah. I think Josh Jung is fine in a Texas stack. I don't hate that. Nolan Gorman, 3,400, just another cheap play that you can get to. Figure out third base. Good luck. Like Nolan Gorman, 3,400, John, hitting in the middle of their lineup. Like, okay. Montero against a lefty, that's fine. In course. Wilmer Flores, not going to go there.
We like Urias, but like JD Davis versus a lefty, Wilmer Flores versus a lefty.
We said it at top, right? They have the San Fran has shown a lot of pop to start the year. So, as slam dunk as we think Urias is and can be, not so fast.
Right. So the third base is interesting again. And as we keep on going through these positions here, and I'm like thinking about the lineups I want to put together, it feels like it's becoming a little tougher and tougher to kind of do so here. Let's hit the shortstop position. At the very top, we see Dansby. We got Xander, Lindor, Adames, Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt's interesting, I guess, against Heaney. Yep. I don't really love the other matchups that are there. You've talked a lot about Texas and maybe Greinke being a target. You got Seager here at 4,800.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop talking about Texas because they do have a lot of upside. Corey Seager's a 30 home run guy. Expected batting average over 300, almost a 500 suggested slow. Like this guy is just running into bad luck. 4,800, no one's going to play him, but I do think it's clear cut. We've gone through this slate. Everyone can see it. St. Louis, Colorado, Angels. Those are going to be the most popular teams. We haven't even mentioned that much Colorado, but like they're in cores. It's just natural. Steven Matz didn't look good in his debut.
Right.
The Rangers are, I think, the next team for me.
Okay.
If not my favorite contrarian team of the slate, just given Zach Greinke's luck that he has had. So
Sure.
yeah, I think of the top tier, Witt for a cheap home run potentially, because that's just what he could do. But it's Corey Seager for me, because everything expected, the expected numbers are he's just running into bad luck.
Yeah, 100%. Edman, as I mentioned, he hit leadoff today. We'll see if he hits leadoff against a righty or not. He's $4,200. There is some stolen base potential there, but he hasn't been on. He's not had a good year, so far to this point. Urshela does have some shortstop eligibility, but I wonder, does he make the lineup today for the going back?
So he's hit 8th on Sunday. Played third and short. He started at short. They subbed Rendon out for a pinch runner, and he shifted to third. So he's starting at short, which is interesting.
It is definitely not a position we're used to seeing him play there. So again, he's he is where he is in that lineup, $4,100. Punt play potential. Nick Ahmed is $2,300. He's got Wade Miley, the lefty. We talk about matchups, lefties for Nick Ahmed here. Could be the punt play at short if we want to go all the way down.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was actually looking at Geraldo Perdomo, his teammate. I think both of them are pretty good because you're right. Ahmed has always hit lefties, and he's coming off a game where he had 2 stolen bases. The game prior, he had a stolen base, so he has 3 stolen bases this last 2 games. And he's $600 cheaper than Perdomo. Perdomo's been really good. 7 of 16 to start the year with 4 walks. He's been on 11 times in 7 games. 571 on base percentage for Geraldo Perdomo, John. And he has stolen base appeal. He only has 1 on the year, but he's fast. Switch hitter. I like both.
It looks like he played mostly against righties last year, but also he hit better against lefties. So
So if they both crack the lineup, I think you could probably make a case for not playing both, obviously, but for both of them to be in your player pool.
Sure, 100%. Anybody else here at shortstop that you think maybe is worthy of consideration?
No. Looking at the lineup today, by the way, for the Diamondbacks, Perdomo hit second against the Dodgers. So
who's on the mound for LA today?
Michael Grove, righty on the mound. So we'll see. But if he's hitting second, he's a switch hitter. Ahmed hit 8th, but again, that was a righty on the mound. So Ahmed is lefty, just dominant against lefty. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting because like we talked about, we look at the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup, guys like Corbin Carroll, lefty, Jake McCarthy, lefty, but they do have guys. So what position did Perdomo play?
He started at second base today.
Okay. Because Lewis went on the IL for them. So someone's re-entered the lineup.
Yeah, Pavin Smith took his spot on the roster and DH'd and hit third.
Okay.
They did not play. It is you're on to something. Ketel Marte was not in the lineup today.
Okay. Yeah, because Pavin Smith's a lefty too, right? So he probably wouldn't be in the lineup versus a lefty.
Yeah, so maybe Ketel or Ahmed or Perdomo, one of those 3 DH. Right? Probably Ketel Marte.
Yep, probably. All right, so something interesting to kind of pay attention to there, in that rotation for the Diamondbacks. Let's go on over to the outfield position. Again, it seems like we're going to have infinite money. I've already plugged 2 value outfielders in, so we're kind of looking for one. Obviously, given the lineup construction that we've talked about, we could take Walker or Burleson out of the lineup, or we could put Burleson at first base. It feels like we want to play both Walker and Burleson, though. As of now, they both kind of hit at different parts of the lineup. Burleson has been hitting second. I've seen Walker hit 6th or 7th, though the man is living up to every ounce of hype, at least so far. And I'm just stunned that he's on. I tweeted out the other day, like, how long is DraftKings going to keep him under 3K? Well, he's at 3K here in Coors. So, listen, if we're playing for one outfield spot, is it Trout? Is it Acuna, Ohtani? Like, where are we? Who's your outfield choice when it comes to the top guys?
It's very, very hard not to just gravitate towards Trout and Ohtani. I will say, as good as Graham Ashcraft was in his debut, he was a reverse splits pitcher last year. Righties 323 average, 900 OPS, 388 WOBA.
Mm,
We know Ronald Acuna is a monster. He is looking every bit the monster that we wanted him to be every year. He doesn't get hurt.
right.
5 stolen bases already this year. Could be another running party. Hard to ignore, but I think Trout is the guy. I think Julio Rodriguez is probably close behind. I'm so I would rank those two first and second, and then Otani Acuna like right below them.
Okay. Next tier below, we mentioned Hunter Renfroe. He's $4,700. Good BVP career wise against Corbin. Absolute lefty masher there. Surprised to see Jake Fraley at 5K. I feel like
Yeah,
feels a little much when you can't move Jordan Walker, but you can put Jake Fraley at 5K. Okay. Yeah, Renfroe at 47. If you really believe in the Texas potential contrarian stack there, Adolis is 47 there as well. Tyler O'Neill, home run or bust, basically at $4,300 against Marquez in the mid tier there. Anybody else that you're taking a peek at here? Lourdes maybe at 39 against Wade.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bunch of these guys in this tier. Lourdes 39.
Lane Thomas
hasn't gotten off to a great start. Lane Thomas is a guy that we play a lot against left-handed pitching.
Yep.
And he continues to just hit. He's just hitting, not a lot of power, but 359 in the year. Profar finally came through, hit a home run on Sunday. I think we should continue to see Profar hit atop the Colorado lineup with a lefty on the mound.
Yeah, better splits for Profar against Southpaws.
Yeah, I like Profar here at 3,700. I think that's a very interesting spot. I only play Dylan Carlson against lefties. He's probably the one Cardinal I will be under the field on because I assume 3,600 people are still going to get to him if he's in the lineup.
The other thing is we come across is like you can't play everybody.
You can't play everybody. That is true.
Right. So,
can't play everybody. I know, but like when like you get projected ownership and you see the Cardinals, like every one of them is going to have like X amount percent because it's like, oh, I want to put
OPS against lefties for Carlson last year.
Yep, he does not hit righties. So like I do not have much interest, even though it's in cores. And then we get down to this like super value tier where James Outman,
Outman keeps hitting power. Keeps hitting for power.
Stone Garrett, like you mentioned, had a big game the other night in cores.
Yeah, I was kicking myself because I made a mental note. I put Lane Thomas in. I was like, all right, put Lane Thomas in, but if Stone Garrett is in the lineup, like I'll go in that direction. And he was hitting, I think he was either hitting leadoff or second in that game. And I had just had a monster day. So if he's in the lineup again, we like Stone Garrett. We were surprised that he left Arizona. So, kind of now on that team there.
And then we get to our boy Jordan Walker. Just
3K. Again, Burleson's 29. Franmil versus Heaney at 3K if you're just looking for some power.
Yep, agreed.
Alex Call, I think he led off that game.
So he led off. Remember we talked about it was on the Friday stream.
Yeah.
He's better against righties.
Sure.
He was had the split, but he's been good like 3 straight games. So if there's going to continue to be, if he's hitting near the top of the lineup or in the middle of the lineup, I have no problem getting there.
3K, there's so many plays. Listen, there are so many plays that we could go here.
Who's your favorite outfielder?
Let me ask you. The J. Hay kid's got 3 home runs in 4 games. And he's got the lefty righty matchup there against Webb.
Yeah, and Webb, if Webb doesn't have the sinker going, he
$2,400 for Jason Hayward.
He gives up a lot of home runs if the sinker's not working. Probably not, but like I get it. Like I get it. Like I'm probably
a guy who's hot. Wrap around, play a little bit for the Dodgers. So it's Walker for me. So that's like my number one.
Yeah, it's Walker for me. I would maybe consider Bubba Thompson 2K for Texas. Okay. 2 for 4 on Sunday, double, triple, 2 RBIs. He's super fast. He has speed. Texas is not cheap for as much as I like them. Like Simeon Seager were 51 and 48, I think. So like Bubba Thompson could be a wraparound stack potential guy.
All right, James, we got about 5 minutes left to go, so it's that time of the day. Give me your home run call for the night.
And when we do this home run call for everyone
We
listening
don't
for
do
the first
Coors.
time, we exclude Coors.
Coors is cheating. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go. What do you got, John? Talk to me. I know we're going Angels, so like just
well, I mean,
give
I
me
thought
your
you
Angel.
were going to go Texas. I'm going to go Brandon Drury.
I said, but when I said we, I meant you.
Yeah.
We really was you.
Okay. Well, I'm going Brandon Drury.
I know it's been a reverse split thing for Zach Greinke in the last few years. I'm gonna go Marcus Semien. Hits a home run for Texas.
All right, Marcus Semien for you, and Brandon Drury here for me. Let's build the lineup. I got Walker and Burleson already in an outfield. Do you agree or disagree?
I largely agree. When we building, like, because if we use Angels value in the infield, we might be able to like spend up at Burleson to like O'Neill, or we might be able to get.
Is O'Neill a better play than Burleson? I'm not too sure. I'm honestly not too sure.
I am not too sure either. I know at this point in their respective careers, I feel like O'Neill has had more upside in the past because he's a 30. We've seen 30-20.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, Burleson's been better and he hits second. So, let's start. Luis Castillo is probably the first place that I think that we're both in agreement on.
Agreed. Luis Castillo in the lineup. Now, are we going to try the double spend? If we go double spend with Castillo, Urias, that's 4,200 a player. We certainly have that.
Well, do we want to plug? Do we want to plug like the offense in and see where we land if we do have like enough? Because we're probably going.
We might be able to go. We might be able to get the Salvi as catcher.
Or Wilson Contreras instead in Coors.
Yeah, sure, get the Contreras. Yeah, that's fine. Wilson at 43.
Second Drury, or probably Drury.
I agree.
Do we like Goldschmidt at first? Was that like kind of where because that was probably why we were playing Burleson in the outfield, right?
So it was Ohtani or it was Goldschmidt.
Yeah. We also used Burleson in the outfield to use one of those guys at first.
Yep.
And then it's the same question at third. It's Rendon. It's really Rendon or Arenado, right? At third,
I like Arenado more though. I think spending up for Arenado makes the most sense.
Going back to Coors.
Yeah. I didn't even think of the narrative, but yes, 100%. So if we did Arenado, it's 5,300 a player still needing first base. Let's say we did Ohtani and Trout. 45-50 for a pitcher and a shortstop.
Shortstop was probably we could probably go one of the Diamondbacks as one-offs, either Perdomo or Ahmed. I mean, Ahmed is cheaper if we want to go that route.
Because we didn't have a love for shortstop. We had maybe Witt or Seager, but we didn't have.
It was Witt or Seager or Edman in the mid tier, but like Edman hasn't even been.
No.
We need stolen bases from Edman this year. We have one so far.
Yeah, let's throw Ahmed in there just for the pure punt.
Agreed.
$6,800 gets us Elder. We didn't mind it, right?
No, and that puts us on Trout, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bang.
So here's the lineup that we got: Luis Castillo, Bryce Elder, Willis Contreras, Shohei Ohtani, Brandon Drury, Nolan Arenado, Nick Ahmed, Jordan Walker, Alec Burleson, and Mike Trout is the lineup for today. James, any final thoughts for people watching at home? We'll be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time, breaking down all the news, recapping all the updates, weather, lineups, answering your start sit questions, helping you all build your lineups for today. Any final thoughts for the people?
No, just super excited to be here with Better. You guys are going to still see all of our Fantasy Alarm content in the same place, fantasyalarm.com, youtube.com/fantasyalarm. But we're growing the family and we're joining the Better Sports Network, and we couldn't be happier to be here.
Amen to that. So good luck, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk to you all later.